That is actually the upgrade to actually increase the range of turrets, the two turrets, auto turrets and missile turrets, and planetary fortresses and point defense drones as well. So a little bit of an interesting one to get there. I think he's probably just trying to make sure that his turrets are going to be able to cover everything while he moves out, because more than likely GoOdy's going to need these Vikings here that he's built, and I would guess he's going to get some more Vikings out soon as well, but he's going to need those units to actually keep the skies clear, because he's not seemingly getting Thors at the moment. He's getting a bunch of Hellions out, we know that, and the Blue Flame is just about done. Blue Flame is not going to be a huge factor in actually cleaning up too many of the forces, though. You don't actually see it do too much against many of the Protoss units, but still, we'll see what happens. We've probably got a bunch of tanks coming out shortly. Yes, we do. We've got some Vikings just patrolling around here, just seeing what's happening at the Protoss base. We've got some Hellions that have gotten into the main base. They're going to take some shots at the probes. They've got a whole bunch of probes so far. We got one, we've got 4 on that one, so we got a total of about, I think that was about 5 or 6 maybe probe kills there for GoOdy, which is a nice little way to harass there. He's actually way ahead on harvesters at the moment. He's currently on 64 to 36. So our Protoss is falling massively behind in economy, and I guess that GoOdy's actually way oversaturated. Yes, he is. So he's got a whole heap of SCVs there that aren't actually doing anything. Another thing here is that he's lifted off this command center. I'm not sure why he's done that, but that's actually going to slow his gas income a bit, which is a bit unfortunate, given that he really needs to get his gas rolling as much as he can. We've got some siege tanks here on the high ground. This is one thing we do like to see here. We've seen a lot in the GSL is the Protoss actually are usually the ones who take advantage of this high ground, using stalkers to blink up and down from this high ground here, but this time we're seeing some tanks. We've got some tanks shelling away at the poor pylon down here and this assimilator, and we've got some Vikings just using the Vikings to spot there, just to see what they can, and they're probably going to watch what comes out of the Stargate as well, unless they have to move back, which they do. But so this is one thing that I personally think is one thing that really needs to be done with this build, is that you really need to do a lot of harass while you're actually expanding yourself and making sure that you are keeping your opponent's economy in check, which obviously GoOdy has done a fantastic job of doing so far. So he's kept on top of definitely the harvesters that are going around at the bases, although it looks as if he wasn't on top of his command center energy. He's plonked down a whole heap of mules there, but we'll see. Now this is really not what you want to do, especially when you don't have blink, is just move into this range of the siege tanks. There was a turret going up here, which would have been nice to stop, but it's not actually going to be a key factor in holding this position is a turret, unless you're going to have a lot of void rays coming in, but I don't think he's going to do that. He's going to stick with the Phoenix for the moment to lift up tanks, which is going to be interesting to see, given that that is another factor which I actually completely did not think about until right now, is that you can also use Phoenix to lift up tanks if there is no if the Protoss actually has air superiority, which is obviously definitely not the factor here at this this high ground, but in a battle, if the Protoss actually has air superiority, they can come in with Phoenix, lift up all tanks, and the tanks are going to do nothing. Stalkers will come in and clean up all the tanks, which is just another reason why we don't actually see the mech build too often nowadays in SC2. We've got Thebis actually moving out here. He's going to see what he can do. There are some Blue Flames Hellions here, and a great line of tanks. This is what you want to see when you're actually playing the mech game, if you are going to play it. One thing to do is make sure you are keeping a line of tanks. This line here isn't really necessary, but making sure you've got lines of tanks to actually make sure that they are either A, hitting all of the targets at once to make sure they can clean up everything, or B, is actually making sure that they don't waste shots. What you'll have is, if you have a line of tanks like sort of across this way, you will actually have, when one unit comes across, you will actually see that they will all shoot it, and it's essentially a bit of a waste if there's that sort of movement there from your enemy forces. But if you have a line of tanks like this, and your opponent is approaching from here with some units, the actual tank fire will be a lot more segregated, in that it will actually be a lot more efficient as well. we have a huge mech force moving across here from GoOdy. This is really what you want to see if you're going to play the mech build. Is you want to see a few Thors in there to try and control what you can. And we've got a whole heap of Hellions, which are going to provide a bit of meat shield for the tanks, and B, they're going to clean up a lot of the lighter units. Now, the probes are going to go down. The Immortals just get absolutely ripped apart, given that they do have their hardened shield, but they don't actually have hardened shield against like 50 tanks. So great movement here by GoOdy. He's moving out. The Void Ray is actually taking care of the Thor there. So the Thor actually cleans up the Void Ray, but I would suspect the Thor is about to die. There it is. There's a gravitation beam from the Phoenix, and the Void Ray is about to take care of this Thor. Now this is where the problem comes in once again, is that if the Protoss has air superiority, they actually have two methods of actually taking care of what is left on the ground for the Terran. So we've got an SCV coming across here to build up some turrets, just to make sure he can try and use them as a static defense to try and clean up. Massive kills there from these Hellions. That was a huge kill. A lot of these Hellions here with a whole heap of kills there. One of them has 11 kills on it. But the Void Rays still come in to try and clean up there. We got some tanks moving around here. We've got another movement of tanks going across the map. This is what you want to see. This is sort of the peak of a mech build, is when you have tanks roaming around. You've got tanks sort of sieging up, controlling areas of the map. And that's what you want to see when you're playing as a Terran, when you're playing against a Protoss and you're trying to mech him, is you want to see that sort of play. We've got these tanks with their really fast auto fire in non-siege mode here on this expansion. This one does go down, so this is probably going to end pretty soon, because GoOdy has actually done such a great job of actually keeping on top of his opponent's macro. So we've seen all of the probes, almost all of the probes from Thebis' base are dead. We've only got 10 probes left. We've got some Phoenix coming across here, just being a little bit annoying there. And we've got 5 Void Rays in total. The Void Rays do have speed, but they also are going to get shot down, I would suspect, by a lot of these Vikings that come across here. The Void Rays have full health at the moment, almost full shields, but I don't think that's enough to take care of the rest of this this whole bloody base, because there's a lot to deal with. But I guess that is just about the end there. The turret taking care of the rest of the Void Rays. 2 turrets. That guy's shooting from miles away. The turret's just dealing with that. Couple of Thors pop out. They say hasta la vista, and that is the end of the Void Rays, and that is the end of that game, because as we can see here, given the massive amount of control that GoOdy actually had over his opponent's economy, he was just in absolute shambles there at the end. But so that was a bit more of the mech play working. As we can see, there is still a lot of things that could have gone wrong if there was another 2 more Void Rays here when GoOdy pushed across to this side here. This could have been a completely different story, because the Thors would have been taken out quicker, and thus the tanks would have been taken out quicker. But we'll see how this goes. We did also have Templar in there, but they of course did not do much to the tanks at all. And we saw a couple of Immortals, not as many as game 2, but still a fair bit of Immortals there, trying to control the tank damage and trying to disperse it with their hardened shields. But we just thought there were just way too many tanks and some great harass from GoOdy. And so from these games, I would say key things for if you are going to give a shot at the mech build: number 1, you need to make sure that if you're going to get Hellions and you're going to get the blue flame, make sure you are doing a lot of drops to try and harass, because if you're not controlling your opponent's economy, that is where you are going to fall into a bit of a trap. Because if a Protoss is allowed to expand out to 4 or 5 bases, they're going to pump out so many Immortals that you can have just tanks lining up across the whole map, because you've been just building a whole heap of tanks, but because there are so many Immortals, you are just going to get cleaned up. So that's point 1, is to make sure you try and actually control your opponent's economy a lot. Obviously the early push at the start really helped out GoOdy here, and I would suspect that taking advantage of high ground is one big thing as well. So taking up these sort of high ground positions here, making sure you're securing the air as well, is a key to making the mech build work. And obviously the last point would be just to make sure you are building sufficient amounts of air. You do not want to spam 10,000 Thors and not have enough tanks to control the ground, but you don't actually want to lose, of course, to Phoenix and Void Rays in the skies. So just be very careful of that sort of thing as well. So hopefully there was a bit of tips and tricks there for you guys. If you want to have a go at the mech build, feel free to post any comments. I'm in no way a massively high-level Terran player, so please feel free to make any comments if I've pointed out something that was a bit of an error, or if there was another way you might like to do the mech build, anything like that. Please leave some comments, leave some feedback, and we will have a look at it and address it from there. More games coming up shortly. I've got some more pro games from the Korean ladders, and also, if you guys want, we will do some more guides coming up as well. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Cheers.